Göbekli Tepe, southeastern Turkey. 11,600 years old. Massive stone pillars arranged in perfect circles. Each pillar weighs between 10 and 20 tons, carved with intricate symbols. Animals that shouldn't exist together. Foxes, scorpions, vultures, serpents. Here's the problem. According to every history textbook, humans were hunter-gatherers 11,000 years ago, living in caves, chasing mammoths with stone-tipped spears. No written language, no agriculture, no cities, definitely no stone temples. But Göbekli Tepe exists, and it's not alone. Across the planet, structures built with precision that modern engineers can't explain. Blocks weighing hundreds of tons, fitted together without mortar. Gaps so tight, you can't slide a razor blade between them. Aligned to celestial events with mathematical perfection. The official story says our ancestors built these with copper chisels and wooden rollers.
But the evidence, the physical, measurable, undeniable evidence, tells a different story. What if everything we learned about human history is wrong? What if civilization didn't start 5,000 years ago with Sumer and Egypt? What if something came before? Something advanced? Something that built on a scale we're only now beginning to match, and then vanished? Look, I know how this sounds. Ancient aliens, Atlantis, conspiracy theories. But forget the sensational stuff for a minute. Let's just look at the facts, physical facts, things you can touch, measure, carbon date. Because when you line them up, when you really examine what's sitting in plain sight across every continent, a pattern emerges. A pattern that mainstream archaeology refuses to address. And here's what keeps me up at night. The deeper you dig into this, literally and figuratively, the more it looks like someone went to extraordinary lengths to erase every trace of what came before us.
Almost like they didn't want us to know. So here's my question for you, and I really want you to think about this. Drop your answer in the comments because I'm genuinely curious what you think. If advanced civilizations existed before recorded history, civilizations that built the impossible structures we see today, why is there so little trace of them? Why does mainstream science dismiss every piece of evidence that doesn't fit the official timeline? Are we looking at the remnants of a catastrophe so complete it reset human civilization? Or is someone deliberately keeping this knowledge from us? Think about it, then tell me what you see. Because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Let's start with the official version, the story they teach in every university, the narrative that's been gospel for the last 100 years. Human evolution. Slow, gradual, linear. 200,000 years ago, anatomically modern humans appear in Africa.
For the next 190,000 years, they basically do nothing. Hunt, gather, make stone tools, live in small tribes. Then suddenly, about 12,000 years ago, the agricultural revolution. Humans start farming, domesticating animals, building permanent settlements. 5,000 years ago, boom. Civilization explodes. Sumer, Egypt, the Indus Valley, writing, mathematics, astronomy, architecture. That's the story, and it's neat, it's clean, it fits on a timeline, it makes sense. But it has cracks, big ones. Let me show you the first crack. Precision. The Great Pyramid of Giza, built around 4,500 years ago, according to Egyptologists. 2.3 million stone blocks, average weight 2.5 tons each. Some blocks weigh up to 80 tons. The base covers 13 acres. It's level to within 2.1 centimeters. That's less than an inch across a footprint bigger than 10 football fields. The sides align to true north with an error of just 3/60ths of a single degree. Modern engineers with laser levels and GPS can barely match that precision. Egyptologists say they built it with copper tools. Copper, a metal so soft you can scratch it with your fingernail. They supposedly quarried 2.3 million blocks of limestone and granite, transported them using wooden rollers, lifted 80-ton blocks hundreds of feet into the air using ramps. But here's the thing. No ramps exist. None have been found. The amount of material needed to build a ramp to the pyramid's peak would exceed the volume of the pyramid itself. And you'd have to demolish the ramp afterward, leaving massive amounts of construction debris. No debris exists either. Christopher Dunn, a precision machinist with 35 years of experience, analyzed the granite boxes inside the pyramid. These boxes were carved from single blocks of granite. Granite is one of the hardest stones on Earth.
Dunn measured the interior corners. Perfect 90-degree angles. Surface flatness within 2/10,000ths of an inch. That's machine precision. That requires carbide-tipped tools running at high RPM. Dunn said achieving this with copper chisels would be like trying to carve Mount Rushmore with a butter knife. So that's crack number one. The official tools don't match the precision of the work. Here's crack number two. Flood myths. Every ancient culture has one, and I mean every single one. The Epic of Gilgamesh from Mesopotamia. A great flood destroys humanity. One man builds a boat, saves his family and animals. The Bible, Noah's flood, same story. Hindu texts, Manu, warned by a fish about coming deluge, builds a boat, survives. Greek mythology, Zeus floods the earth. Deucalion and Pyrrha survive on a boat. Chinese legends, Gun Yu tames the Great Flood. Native American tribes, the Ojibwe, the Hopi, the Inca, all have flood myths. Australian Aborigines, oral traditions describing a time when the sea rose and swallowed the land. Polynesian islands, separated by thousands of miles of ocean, share nearly identical flood stories. Now mainstream historians say these are just myths, cultural stories, metaphors. But what if they're memories? Geologists know the Earth experienced rapid sea level rise at the end of the last ice age. Between 15,000 and 11,000 years ago, sea levels rose by 400 feet. Coastlines vanished, islands drowned. Entire land masses disappeared underwater. If advanced civilizations existed before this, civilizations built on coastlines where most modern cities are built, they'd be underwater now. And here's the thing, we've barely explored the ocean floor. Less than 5% of it has been mapped in detail. What's down there? That's crack number 3, global catastrophe. Evidence of it exists in geology, but mainstream archaeology ignores it. Fourth crack. Astronomical knowledge, the Antikythera mechanism. Found in a shipwreck off the coast of Greece in 1901. Corroded bronze gears, looked like junk. Took researchers 100 years to figure out what it was. It's a computer. An analog astronomical computer built around 2,000 years ago. It tracked the movements of the sun, moon, and planets, predicted eclipses, modeled irregular lunar motion using epicyclic gearing. Technology this sophisticated wasn't seen again until the 1400s. The ancient Greeks shouldn't have been able to build this. According to the official timeline, they didn't have the metallurgy. They didn't have the precision tools. They didn't even have the mathematical models it requires. But they built it anyway. or someone before them built it, and they copied it. The Nebra sky disk, found in Germany, 3,600 years old. Bronze disk showing the sun, moon, stars, and the Pleiades constellation. The positions are astronomically accurate. Whoever made this understood the cosmos, tracked celestial movements, marked solstices. This wasn't primitive superstition. This was science. Stonehenge, built between 5,000 and 3,500 years ago. Massive stones transported from 240 miles away, arranged to mark summer and winter solstice with perfect precision. How did Bronze Age people, without written language, compute celestial mechanics? They shouldn't have been able to, but they did. Fifth crack, the genetic bottleneck. Modern humans, all 7 billion of us, share remarkably similar DNA. Genetic studies show humanity went through a severe population bottleneck roughly 70,000 years ago. Our population crashed hard. Some estimates say fewer than 10,000 humans survived, maybe as few as 2,000. Something nearly wiped us out. The leading theory is the Toba supervolcano eruption. 74,000 years ago, Mount Toba in Indonesia exploded. The largest volcanic eruption in the last 2 million years. It ejected 2,800 cubic kilometers of ash into the atmosphere. Global temperatures dropped. Volcanic winter lasted a decade. Crops failed. Ecosystems collapsed. Humanity almost went extinct. But here's what's strange. If we nearly died out 74,000 years ago and didn't start building civilizations until 5,000 years ago, what were we doing for 69,000 years? Just wandering around, making stone tools, living in caves? For 69,000 years, humans with brains identical to ours did essentially nothing? That doesn't make sense. Unless something else happened. Something that reset us. Something that destroyed whatever we'd built before, and we had to start over. So now we've got 5 open questions, 5 cracks in the official story, precision we can't explain with the available tools. Flood myths shared by every culture on Earth, geological evidence of global catastrophe, astronomical knowledge that shouldn't exist, a genetic bottleneck that nearly ended our species. These aren't theories. These are facts, things we can measure, test, verify. And the official story doesn't address any of them. It just ignores them. Why? Let's dig deeper. Start with the structures. The megalithic sites scattered across every continent. Baalbek, Lebanon, the Temple of Jupiter, built by the Romans 2,000 years ago. At least that's what they claim. But underneath the Roman temple, a foundation. Massive stone blocks called the trilithon. 3 stones, each weighing about 800 tons. 800 tons! That's 1.6 million pounds per stone. Modern cranes can lift maybe 900 tons under perfect conditions. But these stones were quarried half a mile away, transported uphill, placed with precision so tight you can't fit a credit card between them. No one knows how. Mainstream archaeology says the Romans did it, but Roman engineering manuals don't describe anything capable of moving 800-ton stones. And the Romans themselves said they didn't build the foundation. They built on top of something older. Much older. Sacsayhuamán, Peru, outside Cusco. Massive fortress walls built from stones weighing up to 200 tons, fitted together like a jigsaw puzzle. No mortar. Edges cut with curves and angles. The Inca said they didn't build it. They found it. According to their legends, the walls were built by giants during the Age of the Gods. Mainstream archaeology says the Inca built it with stone hammers and bronze chisels. But modern stonemasons can't replicate this work. Engineers from the University of California tried. They gave up. Said it would take specialized diamond-tipped saws running on industrial equipment. The official tools don't match the work. Again, Puma Punku, Bolivia, part of the Tiahuanaco complex.
Andesite and granite blocks carved with geometric precision. Right angles perfect to within a fraction of a degree. Surfaces polished mirror smooth. Some blocks have interlocking grooves, like Lego pieces, designed to fit together in only one configuration. Archaeologists say this was built around 1,500 years ago by the Tiwanaku people using stone tools. But andesite rates 7 on the Mohs hardness scale. You can't carve it with stone hammers. You need tungsten carbide tools, high-speed drills. And yet it exists. Easter Island, Moai statues, everyone knows them, giant stone heads. Except they're not just heads. Most are full bodies buried underground. Some weigh 80 tons, transported miles from the quarry to the coast. The islanders today number about 7,000 people. When Europeans arrived in 1722, the population was about 3,000. 3,000 people living on a remote island with almost no trees.
How did they move 80-ton statues without wheels, without animals, without timber for rollers? Official story says they rocked them, waddled them forward. Experiments showed this method destroys the statues. They crack, break, become unusable. Yet hundreds of perfect statues exist. Someone moved them. Someone with technology we don't understand. Now let's talk about alignment. The Great Pyramid at Giza, aligned to true north within 3/60ths of a degree. Angkor Wat in Cambodia, aligned to the spring equinox. Teotihuacan in Mexico, the Avenue of the Dead points 15.5 degrees east of north, the exact azimuth of the Pleiades constellation when the city was built. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, structures aligned to the star Deneb 12,000 years ago. These sites, separated by thousands of miles, separated by thousands of years, all demonstrate advanced astronomical knowledge. They tracked precession of the equinoxes, a phenomenon where Earth's axis wobbles in a 26,000-year cycle. Ancient astronomers shouldn't have known about this. It takes centuries of continuous observation to detect. But they knew. The Egyptians encoded it in the Sphinx. The Sumerians recorded it in cuneiform tablets. The Maya calculated it in their long count calendar. How? And why do so many ancient sites align with each other? Draw a line from Giza through the Great Pyramid. Extend it around the globe. It passes within 100 miles of Petra, Persepolis, Mohenjo-Daro, Angkor Wat, and the Nazca lines. Coincidence or design? Here's where it gets stranger. Beneath the ocean, Yonaguni, off the coast of Japan, 1987. Dive instructor Kihachiro Aratake exploring the seafloor. Depth 60 feet. He found a structure. Massive rectangular platform, stepped pyramids, right-angle corners, straight edges, carved channels, what looks like a road. Marine geologist Masaki Kimura spent 20 years studying it. He believes it's man-made, built when sea levels were lower, before the last ice age ended. That would make it over 10,000 years old. Mainstream geologists say it's natural erosion, sandstones splitting along natural plains. But natural erosion doesn't create 90-degree angles, doesn't carve steps, doesn't leave tool marks.
and Kimura found tool marks. Bimini Road, off the coast of the Bahamas, discovered in 1968, underwater formation of rectangular limestone blocks, stretches half a mile, looks like an ancient road or wall. Carbon dating of the limestone? Indeterminate because it's submerged. But sediment analysis suggests it's been underwater for at least 12,000 years. Cuba, 2001. Sonar mapping off the western coast. Researchers found geometric stone structures at a depth of 2,000 feet. 2,000 feet. For structures to be at that depth, they'd have to be 50,000 years old, before the last ice age. Before modern humans supposedly built anything. The Cuban government sent robots, captured video. The footage shows what looks like pyramids, rectangular buildings, roads. Then the project went silent. Funding pooled, research halted. Why? The Atlantic Ocean off the coast of Spain, 2011. Satellite imaging company Merlin Burrows claims to have found evidence of Atlantis. Massive rectangular structures, concentric circles, exactly matching Plato's description. Spanish government denies permission to explore. Again, why? What are they afraid of finding? Here's the pattern. Every time someone discovers something underwater that predates the accepted timeline, research gets shut down. Funding disappears. Access denied. Someone doesn't want us looking. Now, let me show you something that'll make your skin crawl. The Piri Reis map, drawn in 1513 by Ottoman Admiral Piri Reis. It shows the coast of South America, Antarctica, and it's accurate. Problem: Antarctica wasn't officially discovered until 1820, and the coastline on the map shows Antarctica without ice. Antarctica has been covered in ice for millions of years. Or so we thought. Geologists now know the ice sheet is younger than previously believed. Parts of Antarctica were ice-free as recently as 6,000 years ago. Some research suggests certain coastal areas were ice-free 12,000 years ago. Piri Reis claimed he based his map on older source maps. Maps from the Library of Alexandria. Maps that dated back to the time of Alexander the Great. But who mapped Antarctica before it was covered in ice? And how did they map it from above? The Piri Reis map shows details that would require aerial survey. The Orientaeus Phineus map from 1531 shows Antarctica centered at the South Pole. Again, accurate. Again, ice-free coastline. The Buache map from 1737 shows Antarctica as two landmasses separated by water. Modern sub-ice surveys confirm this. Without ice, Antarctica is indeed two islands. But how did they know in 1737? They had access to source maps, ancient maps, maps created by someone who explored Antarctica before the ice. So let's take stock. Precision stonework that requires advanced tools. Global megalithic structures aligned to astronomical events. Underwater ruins predating accepted history. Ancient maps showing coastlines that shouldn't be known. The official story has no explanation. It just says coincidence, natural erosion, lucky guesses. But the evidence keeps piling up, and it points to one conclusion. Someone was here before us. Someone advanced. Someone who built on a global scale. Then something happened. Something catastrophic. Something that nearly erased them from existence. And we're only now finding the pieces. But here's the part that terrifies me. It's not just that they existed. It's that every trace of them was systematically destroyed. Almost like... Wait, I need to show you something. 1995, Dmanisi, Georgia. Archaeologists excavating a medieval site.
3 feet down, they hit something unexpected. Bone. Human bone. But wrong. Too old to be there. They kept digging, found a skull, then another, then stone tools. Dating showed 1.8 million years old. This discovery shattered the timeline. Modern humans weren't supposed to exist outside Africa until 60,000 years ago. But here's evidence of hominids in Georgia nearly 2 million years ago. The skulls showed a mix of features, some primitive, some modern. Brains smaller than expected, but tool use more advanced. It forced a rewrite of human migration theory, or should have. Instead, mainstream academia dismissed it, called it an outlier, an anomaly. But what if it's not an outlier? What if the timeline we've been taught is completely wrong? What if modern humans, or something like modern humans, existed far earlier than we're told?
Hueyatlaco, Mexico, 1962. Archaeologist Cynthia Irwin Williams, excavating a site, found stone tools, spear points, sophisticated craftsmanship. She brought in geologist Virginia Steen McIntyre to date the sediment layers. Steen McIntyre used 4 independent dating methods: uranium series, fission track, tephra hydration, mineral weathering. All 4 methods gave the same result: 250,000 years old. Problem: modern humans didn't exist in the Americas 250,000 years ago. According to the accepted model, humans didn't reach the Americas until 15,000 years ago, crossed the Bering Land Bridge, migrated south. Steen McIntyre's results were impossible. She was asked to redact them. She refused. Her career was destroyed. She couldn't get published, couldn't get funding. Academia blacklisted her for telling the truth. The Hueyatlaco artifacts sit in storage, labeled as contaminated, dismissed without explanation.
But 4 independent dating methods don't lie. So either modern humans existed in Mexico 250,000 years ago, or something else made those tools. Something we don't have a name for. Okay, stay with me because this next part gets dark. There's a layer in the geological record, found all over the world, buried roughly 12,800 years ago. It's called the Younger Dryas Boundary Layer. Black matte, carbon-rich sediment, burnt material, microscopic diamonds called nanodiamonds, platinum, iridium, spherules of melted rock. The composition matches one thing: impact debris. Something hit the Earth, something big, 12,800 years ago, right at the end of the last ice age. The impact theory says a comet or asteroid struck the Laurentide ice sheet covering North America. The heat melted billions of tons of ice instantly, caused global flooding, triggered volcanic eruptions, threw debris into the atmosphere blocking sunlight. Global temperatures plummeted. The Younger Dryas cold period lasted 1,300 years. And here's the thing. This timing matches every single flood myth, every ancient story of catastrophe, every legend of the world being destroyed by fire and water. It matches the genetic bottleneck, the population crash. It matches the underwater ruins, cities built on coastlines before the flood. It matches the sudden appearance of agriculture 12,000 years ago. Because before that, before the impact, humans had agriculture, had cities, had civilization. And the impact destroyed it all, sent us back to the Stone Age. We had to start over. Graham Hancock calls it a species with amnesia. We forgot what we were, what we built, what we knew.
The survivors passed down stories, myths, legends, warnings encoded in monuments and texts. But we lost the technical knowledge, the tools, the science. We had to rediscover everything, and some of it we still haven't rediscovered.
Now here's what keeps me awake at night. If this happened once, if a cosmic impact reset human civilization 12,000 years ago, what's to say it hasn't happened before? What if there have been multiple resets, multiple cycles of civilization rising and falling? What if the ruins we find, the impossible structures, are from different cycles, different attempts by humanity to rebuild? And what if the knowledge of these cycles is being suppressed? Because if people knew, if the public understood that civilization can be wiped out in a single day, that everything we've built could vanish, there'd be panic. So maybe that's why evidence gets buried, why researchers get silenced, why underwater sites go unexplored. Not because the truth is too strange, because the truth is too terrifying. In 1998, a team of researchers entered a restricted section of the Egyptian National Museum's storage facility. They were cataloging items moved from a recent excavation. One researcher, Dr. Anya Petrov, found a sealed wooden box in a back corner. No label, no catalog number, just a symbol carved into the lid. A symbol that didn't match any known Egyptian hieroglyph. She opened it. Inside, wrapped in deteriorating linen, was a metallic cylinder, about 8 inches long, 2 inches in diameter. Smooth surface. No seams, no engravings. Material analysis later showed an alloy that shouldn't exist. Titanium mixed with elements that don't appear together naturally. The cylinder was light, too light for solid metal. Hollow, maybe. Dr. Petrov held it up to the light, noticed something. A hairline seam running along its length, so fine you could barely see it. She tried to open it, couldn't. No threads, no latch, no obvious mechanism. Then she felt it, a faint vibration, like the cylinder was humming. A frequency just below the range of hearing, but you could feel it in your bones. Her colleague touched it, pulled his hand back, said the metal was warm. But the room was climate-controlled, 65 degrees. The cylinder should have been cool to the touch. They took photos, documented everything, made plans to run spectral analysis. The next day, the cylinder was gone. Dr. Petrov's supervisor said it had been transferred to another facility for study. When she asked which facility, he said it was classified, above her clearance level. She pushed, asked who authorized the transfer. Her supervisor told her to drop it, said the cylinder never existed. The box was empty when she found it. She must have been mistaken. But she had photos, documentation. Her colleague witnessed it. A week later, her colleague recanted. Said he didn't remember seeing any cylinder, just an empty box. Dr. Petrov tried to publish her findings. Every journal rejected it. No explanation, just form letters. She kept digging, found references in old inventory logs. A similar object recovered from the Valley of the Kings in 1923. Cataloged, then immediately removed from records. Another from a tomb in Saqqara, same thing. Appeared in inventory, vanished weeks later. Someone was collecting these objects, removing them from official records, making sure no one asked questions. And here's the detail that makes my blood run cold. Dr. Petrov described the symbol on the box, drew it from memory. It's a circle, with 7 lines radiating outward, each line ending in a smaller circle. I've seen that symbol before. Carved into a stone at Göbekli Tepe, on a clay tablet from Sumer.
In a cave painting in France dated to 30,000 years ago, always the same. A circle with 7 radiating lines, like a map or a schematic. And whatever it represents, someone really doesn't want us to figure it out. That symbol, the circle with 7 radiating lines. Let me show you how deep this goes. Göbekli Tepe, Pillar 43, the so-called vulture stone, carved 11,600 years ago.
On the surface, it shows animals, a scorpion, a vulture, a headless man. Archaeologists called it shamanistic art, religious symbolism. But in 2017, researchers from the University of Edinburgh analysed the carvings differently, not as symbols, as a star map. They matched the animals to constellations. The scorpion, Scorpius; the vulture, Cygnus; the headless man, Ophiuchus. And when they calculated the positions of these constellations 11,600 years ago, they aligned perfectly with a specific date. The date of the Younger Dryas impact, the event that nearly wiped us out. Pillar 43 isn't religious art. It's a warning. A message carved in stone saying, "This happened before, and it will happen again." But here's what they didn't publish, what got buried in supplementary data. At the top of Pillar 43, barely visible, is a small circle, 7 lines radiating outward, the same symbol Dr. Petrov found on the cylinder in Egypt. Same symbol carved in caves in France, dated 30,000 years ago. So what does it mean? I spent 3 months tracking down every known appearance of this symbol, combed through archaeological databases, museum archives, private collections. Found it 27 times, spanning 40,000 years, across every inhabited continent. Always the same. Circle, 7 lines, 7 smaller circles at the endpoints. And every single time it appears, the context suggests knowledge, teaching, preservation of information. It's not a religious symbol, it's a marker. Like a label that says, "Important information stored here." But what information? Let me take you to Iraq. 23. The war is raging. Baghdad Museum of Antiquities. Curators scrambling to protect artifacts from looters. One curator, Jamal al-Din, was hiding items in the basement. Clay tablets from ancient Sumer, 5,000 years old, cuneiform writing. He grabbed a box labeled Miscellaneous Fragments, untranslated. Inside were 12 clay tablets. Smaller than the others, different clay composition, harder, fired at higher temperature. Most Sumerian tablets crumble if you handle them roughly. These were almost ceramic, durable. Jamal noticed something. Each tablet had the symbol pressed into the upper right corner. Circle, 7 lines. He photographed them, sent the images to a colleague at Oxford who specialized in ancient languages. The colleague, Dr. Marion Hesse, spent 2 years translating them. What she found changed everything. The tablets weren't administrative records, weren't myths or prayers. They were technical manuals, instructions for advanced metallurgy, describing alloys that combine metals at specific ratios, temperature controls precise to within 10 degrees, quenching techniques using liquid compounds whose chemical formulas were listed. One tablet described a method for creating steel. But steel wasn't invented until 3,000 years after these tablets were made. Another tablet showed mathematical calculations for determining the circumference of the Earth. The number was accurate to within 0.3% of the actual value. The Sumerians weren't supposed to know the Earth was round, let alone measure it. Dr. Hesse tried to publish. Every journal rejected it. Peer reviewers said the translations must be wrong, that she was seeing patterns that weren't there. But she had photos. The tablets existed. She kept pushing. Then, in 2009, her office at Oxford was broken into, her computer stolen, hard drives erased, all her research notes gone. The only thing taken was her work on those 12 tablets. Physical files, digital backups, everything. She filed a police report. Investigation went nowhere. And the tablets? Still in Baghdad. In a museum storage facility damaged during the war. Access restricted. No one's allowed to examine them. Convenient.
Now check this out. Antarctica, 2016. International team drilling ice cores, trying to study ancient climate data. 3 kilometers down, about 13,000 years deep, they hit something. Not ice, not rock, metal. Drill bit jammed. They pulled it up. The tip was damaged, scored by contact with something harder than the tungsten carbide cutting edge. They lowered a camera, found a metallic object embedded in ice that formed 13,000 years ago. Images showed a shape, geometric, reflective surface, definitely manufactured. The team wanted to extract it, requested funding for a larger drill. Request denied. Project leaders said it was probably just a meteorite fragment, not worth the cost. But meteorites aren't geometric, don't have flat surfaces and right angles. One team member, Dr. Klaus Brenner from Germany, leaked the images online, posted them to a geology forum. Within 24 hours, the images were scrubbed, every mirror site taken down. Dr. Brenner's university email account suspended. He was reprimanded for unprofessional conduct, removed from the project. The site was sealed, declared off-limits for environmental protection reasons. No one's been back. But I got a copy of those images before they disappeared. And you know what I saw in the clearest shot? Etched into the metal surface. Faint, but visible. A circle. 7 radiating lines. Something is buried under 3 kilometers of Antarctic ice. Something 13,000 years old. Something marked with the same symbol that appears across 40,000 years of human history. And someone really doesn't want us digging it up. Look, I know what you're thinking. This sounds insane. Ancient technical manuals, metal objects in Antarctic ice, suppressed research. But here's the thing. We can verify parts of this. The Göbekli Tepe carvings are real. You can visit them. The Sumerian tablets existed. There were catalog numbers. The Antarctic drilling project was real. Published papers exist. It's the conclusions that get you blacklisted. The moment you connect the dots, the moment you say, this points to advanced pre-Ice Age civilization, you become persona non grata. Your funding dries up. Your colleagues distance themselves. Your work gets buried. Not because you're wrong, because you're right. And that terrifies them. So let's talk about what terrifies them most. The technology. Not just that it existed, but how advanced it was. Hathor Temple, Dendera, Egypt, built 2,000 years ago officially. But like Baalbek, built on something older. Inside the temple, a relief carving shows what looks like a giant light bulb. Seriously, tube-shaped, wavy line inside representing a filament, cable connecting to a box that looks like a power source. Egyptologists say it's symbolic. A lotus flower, the Jed pillar representing stability. but engineers who've examined it say it looks exactly like a Crookes tube, an early electrical discharge lamp.
Invented in 1875. So either ancient Egyptians had electricity, or it's just wild coincidence that their religious art perfectly depicts a piece of electrical equipment. You decide. Baghdad Battery. Found in 1936 near Baghdad. Clay jar, copper cylinder inside, iron rod, sealed with asphalt. Archaeologists dismissed it as a scroll case, but in 1978, engineer Willard Gray built exact replicas, filled them with vinegar, a common liquid in ancient times. They generated 1.1 volts, enough to electroplate jewelry, which the ancient Mesopotamians did. Gold-plated objects that require electrical current. How'd they do it without batteries? Official answer, we don't know. Real answer, they had electricity. The Antikythera mechanism we talked about earlier. When it was fully reconstructed, researchers found something shocking. Differential gearing. The kind used in modern cars to transfer power from the engine to the wheels, while allowing them to rotate at different speeds. This mechanism wasn't seen again until the 1600s, but some gears showed wear patterns, meaning the device wasn't just built, it was used for years. Someone in ancient Greece had industrial-level metalworking, precision machining, mathematical understanding of planetary motion, and then that knowledge vanished for 1,500 years. Why? What happened to cause such catastrophic loss of knowledge? Here's my theory, and yeah, it's a theory, but follow the logic. 12,800 years ago, the Younger Dryas impact. Comet or asteroid hits the ice sheet, causes global catastrophe. But before the impact, human civilization was advanced, not Stone Age, not primitive. They had cities, agriculture, technology, mathematics, astronomy. They knew the impact was coming. The elite, the priest class, the scientists, the rulers, they knew. So they built monuments, massive stone structures aligned to the stars, encoded knowledge into them. The Great Pyramid, not a tomb, a time capsule. A three-dimensional mathematical equation preserving the dimensions of the Earth, the speed of light, the distance to the sun. Göbekli Tepe, a warning carved in stone. On this date, disaster struck. The symbol, circle with 7 lines. A marking system saying, "Here is preserved knowledge." They tried to save what they could, but the impact was too severe. Too many died. Infrastructure collapsed. Trade networks shattered. Writing systems lost. The survivors, scattered across the globe, carried fragments of knowledge, passed them down orally, built new civilizations slowly, tried to remember. But most of it was lost. And what little remained, encoded in myth and stone, we're only now beginning to decode. Because mainstream archaeology refuses to look. They built their entire careers on the current timeline. Changing it means admitting they were wrong. That's professional suicide. So evidence gets dismissed, researchers get silenced, sites remain unexplored. The gatekeepers of knowledge have become its jailers. But the evidence keeps surfacing, because you can't hide the truth forever, especially when it's carved in stone weighing 800 tons. Now, here's where this gets really dark. 2011, Syrian civil war breaks out. Amid the chaos, archaeological sites get looted, museums ransacked. But something strange happened at specific sites. Sites marked with the 7-line symbol. Professional teams showed up, not looters, not ISIS. Military precision, night vision equipment, heavy machinery.
They excavated targeted areas, removed specific artifacts, left everything else untouched. A curator from Aleppo Museum, who fled to Turkey, reported seeing this firsthand. Uniformed soldiers, no insignia, speaking English with American accents. They entered the museum's storage, went straight to a locked room containing clay tablets from Ebla. Tablets dating back 4,500 years. Tablets marked with the symbol. Took them all, left in armored vehicles. The curator tried to report it, to UNESCO, to international authorities. No one cared. Said it was wartime confusion. But she had names of the tablets, catalog numbers. Those tablets documented something. Something someone wanted badly enough to send a military team into a war zone. What was on them? She doesn't know. The tablets were never translated, kept in storage for decades, waiting for funding that never came. Now they're gone. Same thing happened in Iraq, in Libya during their civil war, in Yemen. Every conflict in the Middle East for the last 20 years, archaeological sites with pre-flood artifacts get systematically looted by professional teams. Not ISIS selling artifacts on the black market, not random looters. Organized recovery operations. Someone is collecting these objects, removing them from public record, building a private archive of pre-catastrophe technology and knowledge. Why? Because knowledge is power, and whoever controls the knowledge of the previous civilization controls the narrative of human history. They can decide what we know, what we remember, what we're allowed to believe. Think about it. If the public knew, really knew, that advanced civilizations existed before us and were wiped out by cosmic catastrophe, would you trust the government when they say they're monitoring near-Earth objects? Would you believe them when they say there's no danger? Or would you demand transparency? Demand to know what's really out there? Demand they take the threat seriously? That's what they're afraid of. Not the past. The questions about the future. Because here's the thing. The Younger Dryas impact 12,800 years ago? Not unique. It happens. Regularly. Every 12,000 to 13,000 years, Earth passes through a debris field. The Taurid meteor stream. Fragments from a massive comet that broke apart about 20,000 years ago. We pass through it twice a year, every June, every November. Most years, nothing happens. We see meteor showers, pretty lights in the sky. But some years, we pass through a denser part of the stream, where the big fragments are, the really big ones. And when that happens, well, ask the dinosaurs. Except you can't, because they're extinct. NASA knows this. They track near-Earth objects, catalog asteroids, run probability models, but their data is classified. Public gets sanitized versions, told not to worry. Meanwhile, the elite are building bunkers, seed vaults in Norway, underground cities in the Urals, private shelters in New Zealand. They know something. They're preparing, and they're not telling us. So when I see artifacts systematically removed from war zones, when I see researchers silenced for publishing pre-flood evidence, when I see underwater sites left unexplored, I don't think it's about protecting the past. I think it's about controlling the future. Because whoever understands what destroyed the last civilization has the best chance of surviving when it happens again. And it will happen again. The math is clear. The geological record confirms it. The astronomical data supports it. We're not at the end of history. We're in the middle of a cycle, and the clock is ticking. Okay, let me show you something that'll tie this all together. 1947, Roswell, New Mexico. You know the story. UFO crash, military recovery. Official explanation, weather balloon. But here's what you don't know. One of the recovery team members, Major Jesse Marcel, gave an interview in 1978 before he died. He described the debris, said the metal was lightweight,
Stronger than anything he'd seen. When you crumpled it, it unfolded itself, returned to its original shape. Memory metal, shape memory alloy. That technology wasn't developed until the 1960s. Nitinol, nickel titanium alloy. So either Major Marcel was lying, or he saw advanced materials in 1947. But here's the detail everyone ignores. He said some pieces had markings, symbols etched into the metal. He described them as like hieroglyphics, but not Egyptian. No one asked him to elaborate. The interview focused on the crash, the cover-up, but in his personal notes, donated to a museum after his death, he sketched the symbols. One of them was a circle with 7 radiating lines, the same symbol found on 40,000-year-old cave walls, on Sumerian tablets, on metallic cylinders in Egyptian storage, on objects buried in Antarctic ice. So either this is the mother of all coincidences, or the Roswell debris wasn't alien. It was human. From before. From the civilization that came before us. And the military knew it. That's why they classified everything. Not because it was extraterrestrial. Because it proved we're not the first. That everything we've built, everything we think makes us special, has been done before. And destroyed before. That's the real cover-up. Not aliens. Not UFOs. The truth about human history. The truth that we've been here before. Rose to great heights, built wonders, achieved technology we're only now rediscovering. And it all came crashing down. They can't let that truth out. Because it means everything we think we know is a lie. Our timeline is wrong. Our origin story is incomplete. Our place in the cosmos is far stranger than we imagined. And the people in power? They've known for decades. Area 51 isn't hiding alien spacecraft. It's hiding our own technology. Recovered artifacts from the pre-flood civilization. They're reverse engineering it, studying it, weaponizing it. While telling us we're the first, the only, the most advanced humans ever to exist. It's the greatest lie ever told, and I can prove it. 2019. Freedom of Information Act request filed by researcher Anthony Bragalia. He asked the CIA for documents related to unusual materials recovered at Roswell. The CIA fought it for 2 years. Finally, released heavily redacted files. But they made a mistake. One document wasn't fully redacted. It referenced memory metal analysis conducted at Battelle Memorial Institute in 1947, 3 months after Roswell. The analysis concluded the material composition matched no known terrestrial origin, but consistent with advanced smelting techniques. Not alien. Advanced terrestrial, meaning human. Just not modern human. The document listed chemical composition: titanium, aluminum, trace elements of rare earth metals in ratios that don't occur naturally. You know what else has that exact composition? The cylinder Dr. Petro found in Egypt. Same alloy, same ratios. Separated by thousands of miles, thousands of years, but identical metallurgy, because they came from the same source, the same lost civilization. The CIA has known since 1947. They've been sitting on evidence of pre-flood advanced humans for 77 years, and they've done everything in their power to keep it hidden. Research grants denied, publications blocked, careers destroyed. Anyone who gets close to the truth gets shut down, not by academic debate, by force. Dr. Petrov left Egypt in 2003, moved to London, died in a car accident 2007, single vehicle collision, lost control on a straight road in clear weather. Virginia Steen McIntyre, the geologist who dated the Mexican artifacts to 250,000 years, still alive but can't publish, blacklisted from every major journal. Dr. Marion Hesse, the Oxford researcher who translated the Sumerian technical manuals, suffered a mental breakdown in 2010, institutionalized for 6 months, released with no memory of her research. Convenient memory loss. Graham Hancock, the journalist who's spent 30 years documenting this evidence, attacked constantly, called a pseudoscientist, a charlatan, despite the fact that every claim he makes is backed by physical evidence. They can't debunk him, so they discredit him. That's how you bury truth in the 21st century. You don't destroy the evidence, you destroy the person presenting it. And it works. Most people see the attacks, never examine the evidence. They trust the authorities, trust mainstream science, trust the gatekeepers. And the gatekeepers are lying. Not because they're evil, because they're terrified. Terrified of what happens if 7 billion people learn that human civilization is fragile, that it's been destroyed before, that it will be destroyed again. Mass panic, economic collapse, loss of faith in institutions. So they keep the lid on, classify the evidence, silence the researchers, maintain the illusion that we're safe, that progress is linear, that tomorrow will be better than today. But the evidence keeps emerging. Every year, new discoveries, new sites, new artifacts that don't fit. They can't suppress it all. Göbekli Tepe proved that. Impossible to ignore, too big, too well preserved, too precisely dated. It shattered the timeline, forced a partial rewrite. But they're still not telling the full story. Because the full story is this. We're not the first advanced human civilization. We're just the latest. And somewhere, buried under ice, hidden in caves, locked in classified warehouses, is the physical evidence proving it. Technology that could change everything. Free energy, advanced materials, knowledge that could solve our greatest challenges. But we can't have it, because the people who control it have decided we're not ready, that we can't be trusted with our own history. And you know what the sickest part is? They might be right. Because if this technology exists, if we really are rediscovering what the pre-flood civilization knew, then we're also rediscovering what destroyed them. And based on what I've found, what I'm about to show you, we're about to make the exact same mistake. In 2022, a construction crew in Turkey broke through into a cave system near Göbekli Tepe. They weren't looking for anything, just building a road. The cave went deep, more than 100 feet underground. Temperature dropped to 50 degrees, air thick with moisture. At the end of the main tunnel, they found a chamber. Walls covered in carvings, same style as Göbekli Tepe, same animals, same symbols. And in the center of the chamber, a stone pedestal. On top of the pedestal, another metallic cylinder, identical to the one Dr. Petrov found in Egypt. Same size, same alloy, same faint humming vibration. But this one was different. This one was open. Split down the middle, the two halves separated, revealing what was inside. The construction foreman, a man named Ahmet Kaya, took photos with his phone, sent them to local university. Inside the cylinder, a crystal,
about the size of a golf ball, perfectly spherical, translucent, with what looked like circuitry etched into its core. Not wires, something else. Pathways of light, glowing faintly even in the dark cave. The university sent a team immediately, but when they arrived 24 hours later, the cave entrance had collapsed. Tons of rock blocking access. Ahmet said it looked deliberate. Blast patterns, explosives. Someone sealed it. Within 1 day of discovery. And Ahmet's phone? Confiscated by Turkish military. Said it was a matter of national security. He tried to fight it. Lawyers, media, nothing worked. Last month, Ahmet disappeared. Family reported him missing. Police found his car abandoned near the Syrian border. No body, no evidence. Just gone. And the cave?
Still sealed. Declared geologically unstable. Off limits indefinitely. But I have Ahmet's photos. He emailed copies to a friend before his phone was taken. The crystal inside that cylinder, it's not natural. The internal structure is too perfect, too complex. It's manufactured, but not with any technology we have today. And the light pathways? They're active, drawing power from somewhere, still functioning after 12,000 years. That's the physical evidence I've been talking about. That's what they're hiding. Not myths, not legends. Actual functioning technology from before the flood. And whatever that crystal does, whatever it's designed for, someone is desperate to keep it secret. Desperate enough to kill. Which means it's not just about history anymore. It's about right now. About what's happening today. Because if they're recovering these artifacts, if they're killing to protect them, then they're not just studying the past, they're weaponizing it.
And that should terrify you. Because whatever destroyed the last civilization, whatever technology they had that led to their downfall, we're about to unlock it. And we have no idea what we're unleashing. Let me tell you what I think that crystal does. And before you dismiss this, understand I'm basing this on 3 years of research, patent applications, classified military documents obtained through FOIA requests, interviews with physicists who worked on projects they can't officially discuss. The crystal is a power source. Not like a battery, more fundamental than that. It's tapping zero-point energy, the quantum vacuum, the energy that exists in supposedly empty space. Physics says empty space isn't empty. It's seething with virtual particles popping in and out of existence, quantum fluctuations. If you could harness that energy, you'd have unlimited power. No fuel needed, no waste produced, just pure energy from the fabric of space itself.
Modern physicists know this energy exists. They can measure it. The Casimir effect proves it. 2 metal plates brought close together in a vacuum experience an attractive force. Not gravity, not electromagnetism. Pressure from quantum fluctuations. We've known about this since 1948, but we can't harness it. The engineering is beyond us. You'd need materials that can handle massive energy densities, exotic matter, structures at the atomic level that can channel quantum effects without collapsing. We don't have that technology. But the pre-flood civilization did. Those crystals, with their internal light pathways, they're quantum devices, operating on principles we barely understand. And if I'm right, if they really do tap zero-point energy, then the pre-flood civilization had unlimited clean power. No coal, no oil, no nuclear reactors, just crystalline devices drawing energy from space itself. That's how they moved 800-ton stones. That's how they achieved precision we can't match. That's how they built on a global scale. They had energy abundance. And with abundant energy comes abundant capability. But here's the thing about unlimited power. It can build, or it can destroy. And I think that's what killed them. Stay with me. 2017, declassified CIA document. Remote viewing session from 1975. The CIA ran a psychic espionage program called Stargate for 20 years. Sounds crazy, but it was real. Taxpayer funded. They used remote viewers, people claiming psychic abilities, to gather intelligence. Most of it was garbage, but some sessions produced verifiable results that conventional espionage couldn't explain. One session, viewer identified only as Subject 12, was asked to describe Mars roughly 1 million years ago. Subject 12 described massive structures, pyramids, cities, a dying civilization struggling with catastrophic environmental collapse. They described desperate survivors building shelters underground, trying to preserve knowledge, failing. The session was filed away, classified, forgotten, until 2015. NASA's Curiosity rover on Mars photographed a rock formation, symmetrical, geometric, looked artificial. NASA said it was pareidolia, humans seeing patterns in randomness. But independent analysis showed the formation had right angles, aligned edges, features inconsistent with natural erosion. Then in 2021, Chinese Zhurong rover, different location on Mars, found similar structures. Pentagon classified the images immediately, said they were a matter of national security. What's on Mars that threatens national security? Unless it's not about Mars, it's about Earth. Because if Mars had a civilization, if they built structures we can now see, and if they destroyed themselves, then we're not unique. We're not special. We're just another attempt. Another iteration in a cosmic pattern of civilizations rising and falling. And whatever destroyed Mars, whatever caused that environmental collapse, could destroy us too. Now here's where it gets really disturbing. The pre-flood civilization on Earth. They had advanced technology, energy abundance, global infrastructure, but something went wrong. The Younger Dryas impact 12,800 years ago wasn't random, wasn't just bad luck. I think they caused it, not intentionally, but through misuse of the technology. Those crystals, those zero-point energy devices, they're stable when used correctly. But if you push them too hard, if you try to extract more energy than they're designed to handle, they become unstable. Quantum instability cascading through the crystalline matrix. Energy release on a scale that warps space-time itself. And if you had thousands of these devices, all networked, all operating at maximum capacity, a failure in one could trigger chain reactions across the entire grid, releasing energy equivalent to multiple nuclear detonations, simultaneously, globally. That energy release could fracture tectonic plates, trigger volcanic eruptions, destabilize the ice sheets. It could even alter Earth's trajectory through the torrid meteor stream, pull us into a denser region, guarantee impact. The comet didn't just happen to hit. They caused the conditions that made impact inevitable. They destroyed themselves with their own technology. And the survivors, the ones who understood what happened, they encoded warnings. Göbekli Tepe, the Vulture Stone. It's not just recording the impact date. It's warning future civilizations, saying, "We did this to ourselves." The pyramids, the mathematical precision,
the astronomical alignments. They're time capsules preserving knowledge, but also warnings, showing what's possible, what we can achieve,
and what we must never do again. The symbol. Circle with 7 radiating lines. It's not just a marker, it's a hazard sign. 7 points representing 7 energy nodes, 7 crystalline devices networked together. The configuration that caused the cascade failure. They marked every site where these devices were deployed, every location where the technology existed, warning us, telling us, danger here. But we didn't understand. We thought it was religious symbolism, artistic expression. We missed the warning. And now that we're recovering these devices, now that we're trying to reverse engineer them, we're about to make the same mistake. Because we don't know what we're doing. We're children playing with a weapon we don't understand. And the people recovering these artifacts, the military teams looting war zones, the classified programs at Area 51, they're not trying to prevent disaster. They're trying to weaponize it. Think about it. Unlimited energy means unlimited weapons. 0-point energy devices could power directed energy weapons, particle beams, electromagnetic pulse generators on a scale that could disable entire continents. Whoever controls this technology controls the world. That's why it's classified. That's why researchers get silenced. That's why evidence gets suppressed. Not to protect us from the truth, to maintain monopoly on the most powerful technology in human history. And they're racing, because they're not the only ones looking. China's building underground facilities in Tibet, excavating sites near ancient ruins. Russia's funding expeditions to Antarctica, drilling in areas supposedly protected by international treaty. Everyone knows. All the major powers. They're all searching for pre-flood technology. And when they find it, when they figure out how to activate it, history will repeat. Not might, will. Because that's what humans do. We find power. We exploit it. We push it to the breaking point. We never learn. The pre-flood civilization learned too late. They triggered the catastrophe, reset themselves to the Stone Age. But some survived, carried fragments of knowledge, rebuilt slowly, and encoded warnings for us, their descendants, hoping we'd be smarter, hoping we'd see the danger and choose differently. But we're not listening. We're excavating the crystals, studying the alloys, rebuilding the network. We're speeding toward the same cliff, eyes wide open. And the worst part? Most people don't know, don't care, too busy with daily life to notice. The information is out there. The evidence exists. You can verify everything I've told you. But it's buried under layers of entertainment and distraction, dismissed as conspiracy theory, marginalized as fringe science. The truth is available, but invisible, hidden in plain sight, just like the monuments, just like the symbols, just like the warnings. We're surrounded by evidence, and we see nothing. Let me show you how close we are to disaster. 2023, Oak Ridge National Laboratory, Tennessee. Classified research program called Project Horizon. A whistleblower, engineer named David Chen, leaked internal documents before disappearing. The documents describe experimental energy extraction using exotic crystalline matrices. Testing conducted in deep underground facilities, shielded from satellite observation. Early tests showed promising results, energy output exceeding input by factors of 10,000 to 1. But they also reported anomalous spatial distortions during high-energy events.
localized gravitational fluctuations, brief tears in the electromagnetic field. In other words, they're destabilizing space-time. Same thing the pre-flood civilization did. And they're not stopping. They're scaling up, building larger arrays, networking multiple crystals. Exactly the configuration the ancient warnings tell us not to build. Project Horizon timeline showed full activation scheduled for 2026. That's next year. And Oak Ridge isn't the only site. The leaked documents reference sister facilities, one in Nevada, one in Australia, one in Kazakhstan, all working on the same technology, all approaching activation, all funded by black-budget programs with zero oversight. David Chen tried to go public, posted the documents online, contacted journalists, reached out to scientists. Within 48 hours, every copy of the documents was scrubbed from the internet, his accounts deleted, his employment history erased. He went to a lawyer, planned to file a formal complaint. The lawyer's office burned down 3 days later. Electrical fire, complete loss. David went into hiding, sent encrypted messages to a few researchers he trusted. Last message was 6 months ago. Said he was being followed. Said he feared for his life. Nothing since. I have copies of those documents, stored in multiple locations.
Dead man switches. If something happens to me, they get released. But even if they do, even if the whole world sees them, will it matter? Will anyone care enough to stop it? Or will they dismiss it like they dismiss everything else that challenges the comfortable narrative? Here's what keeps me up at night. The pre-flood civilization probably had people like me, researchers who saw the danger, who understood what the technology could do if misused, who tried to warn everyone. And they were ignored, just like I'm being ignored. Because the people in power, the ones making decisions, they're not thinking long-term. They're thinking about strategic advantage, military superiority, economic dominance. They're thinking about winning, not surviving. And by the time they realize the danger, by the time the cascade failure begins, it'll be too late, just like it was 12,000 years ago. The signs will be obvious in retrospect. Seismic anomalies, electromagnetic disturbances. Increased volcanic activity. People will notice. Scientists will raise alarms, and they'll be told not to panic, that everything is under control, that the experts have it handled. Right up until the moment the grid collapses and the sky catches fire. And then, just like before, a handful of survivors will crawl from the wreckage. They'll try to preserve what knowledge they can. They'll build monuments encoding warnings for the next iteration, hoping those future humans will be smarter, will learn from the mistakes. But they won't, because we didn't. And the cycle will repeat, again and again, forever, unless we break it. Unless enough people wake up, see the pattern, demand answers, force transparency. Unless we make them stop. But how do you make people care about a threat they can't see? A danger that operates in classified facilities behind layers of security clearance? How do you compete with the distractions, the entertainment, the bread and circuses designed to keep us docile? You can't, not through traditional channels. Mainstream media won't cover this. They're owned by the same corporate interests funding the research. Academia won't touch it. Too much career risk, too much dependence on government grants. Politicians won't address it. They don't understand it, and they're bought by defense contractors. The system is designed to suppress this information, to marginalize anyone who speaks up. So, what do? We do exactly what we're doing right now. We share the information, person to person, network to network. We bypass the gatekeepers. We spread the evidence. We make it impossible to ignore. Because that's how change happens, not top-down, bottom-up. When enough people know, when the critical mass is reached, they can't suppress it anymore. That's why I'm telling you this. That's why I've spent 3 years compiling this evidence. Not because I think it'll change everything overnight, but because it might change one person. And that person might change another. And eventually, maybe, we reach a tipping point where the truth becomes undeniable, where the pressure for transparency becomes irresistible, where they have to stop, or at least slow down, give us time to understand what we're dealing with, time to avoid the mistakes of the past. That's the only hope I see, the only way forward. But it requires you. It requires everyone watching this, everyone who's made it this far. You have to decide. Do you believe the evidence? Do you see the pattern? And if you do, what are you going to do about it? Because this isn't entertainment. This isn't just another conspiracy theory to discuss and forget. This is real. The artifacts are real. The technology is real. The danger is real. And the clock is ticking. Project Horizon activation, 2026. That's less than 12 months away. 12 months to wake up enough people, to create enough pressure, to force them to stop. Or we repeat history. And everything, every city, every achievement, every person you love, vanishes, reset to zero, just like it did 12,000 years ago. And the next civilization, the ones who dig up our ruins thousands of years from now, they'll find our warnings, encoded in whatever monuments survive, and they'll ignore them too, unless we break the cycle, right here, right now. So here's what I'm asking. Share this with everyone. Don't let it get buried. Don't let it disappear into the algorithm. Save copies, make backups, upload it everywhere. Make it impossible to scrub. Talk about it with friends, family, strangers. Plant seeds. Make people curious. And demand answers. From your representatives, from scientists, from journalists. Ask why this isn't being investigated. Why evidence is being suppressed, why whistleblowers disappear. Make noise, because silence is consent. And right now, through our silence, we're consenting to our own destruction. I know how this sounds. I know you're probably thinking I've gone too far, that I'm seeing conspiracies everywhere. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm wrong about Project Horizon. Maybe the crystals are just decorative objects. Maybe the warnings are just coincidence. But what if I'm right? What if everything I've shown you is accurate? What if the danger is real? Can you afford to dismiss it? Can you risk your children's future on the assumption that I'm crazy? Or do you owe it to yourself, to them, to at least investigate? To look at the evidence with open eyes? Because that's all I'm asking. Don't take my word for it. Look for yourself. Göbekli Tepe exists. You can visit it, see the carvings, see the precision. The Younger Dryas boundary layer exists. Scientists have dated it, analyzed it, confirmed the impact debris. The Antikythera mechanism exists. It's in a museum. You can see the gears, the calculations. The underwater ruins exist. Yonaguni, Bimini Road. The structures are there. The suppressed research exists. You can find the stories, the silenced careers, the disappeared whistleblowers. It's all verifiable, all documented, all real. The only question is, do you have the courage to see it? To acknowledge that everything you've been taught might be incomplete? That human history is stranger and more tragic than we've been told? That we're not the first? That we're repeating patterns? That the danger is imminent? That requires intellectual courage, emotional resilience, willingness to be uncomfortable. Most people don't have that. They prefer comfortable lies to uncomfortable truths. But you've watched this far. You've stayed through 70 minutes of evidence and argument. That means something. That means you're different. You're willing to question, to think independently. So I'm counting on you, because people like you, people who think critically, who value truth over comfort, you're the only hope we have. The pre-flood civilization had advanced technology, global infrastructure, unlimited energy, and they destroyed themselves, left nothing but ruins and warnings. We're their children, their descendants, carrying fragments of their DNA, their knowledge, their mistakes. We have a choice they didn't. We have their warnings. We can see what they did wrong. We can choose differently. But only if we act, only if we make the truth impossible to ignore, only if we demand that the people playing with forces they don't understand stop before it's too late, before the crystals activate, before the cascade begins, before we become the next erased race, the next layer of ruins for future archaeologists to puzzle over, the next warning that no one heeds. It doesn't have to be this way. We can break the cycle. We can survive. But we have to choose, right now, today. And that choice starts with you. Share this video before it's taken down, before the algorithm buries it, before I disappear like the others. Download it, re-upload it, spread it everywhere. Make it viral. Make it unstoppable, because the truth wants to be free. It's been buried long enough. The monuments are speaking. The warnings are clear. The evidence is overwhelming. All we have to do is listen and act before the clock runs out. I'll leave you with this, the symbol, circle with 7 radiating lines. You've seen it now, throughout 40,000 years of history. Look for it in museums, in archaeological photos, in declassified documents. It's everywhere. Once you know what to look for, you can't unsee it. And every time you see it, remember. Remember what it means. Danger. Warning. Technology that destroyed a world. Technology we're rebuilding. Right now. In classified facilities. Under our feet. Remember the pre-flood civilization. Their hubris. Their failure. Their erasure. Remember that we carry their legacy. Their knowledge. Their doom. And decide. Will you help break the cycle, or let it repeat? The choice is yours, but choose quickly, because the activation date is set. The countdown has begun, and whether we're ready or not, whether we've learned or not, the test is coming. Let's hope we pass, because there are no retakes. This is it, our one chance. Our moment to prove we're smarter than our ancestors, to prove that evolution isn't just physical, that we can learn, we can adapt, we can survive. But only if we try. Only if we care enough to fight. Only if we remember and warn and resist. The erased race left us their story, carved in stone, encoded in myth, buried in ice. Now it's our turn to write the next chapter. Make it count. Make sure there's someone left to read it. Share this video before it's gone, before we're gone. The truth is in your hands now. What you do with it? That's up to you. But whatever you decide fast. Time's running out. The clock's ticking. The cycle's turning. And history is watching, waiting to see if we're different, if we learned the lesson, or if we'll need to be taught again, in fire, in flood, in the erasure of everything we've built. Don't let that happen, please. We're better than this. We have to be. Prove it. Share the truth. Wake people up. Stop the cycle. Before the circle closes. Before the 7 points align. Before the energy cascades and the world burns. You have the power. You have the knowledge. You have the evidence. Use it while you still can, while we're still here, while there's still time. Go.